Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. Whether they were moral about it, because they were the other guy's bankers too. The old Chinese wall again, the old Deloitte Chinese wall that doesn't exist. But he's doing terrific. And, his wife's gone, and I told you about that already. And his little kids, I hear, not just because they're there every Sunday, are doing terrific. And but I mean, he's made it as his life. I mean, he doesn't do anything else. Questions about Anelli, and you got to hang tough on the vis-a-vis guarantees and recourse. Nobody's going to tell you about the non-recourse. Now, back in the day, 15 or so years ago, several of the guys hired regional bank presidents to be their CFOs because they had all the contacts. Now, a lot of those regional banks have been gobbled up by big banks now, but regional bank presidents to be their CFOs, and in some cases, their chairman. And they had the contacts were terrific, and they knew where to get stuff. Now, some of the kids ask, and you may think about it later, how does he get these big fucking subsidiaries from these big multi-billion-dollar companies? His accountants, his lawyers, and in some cases, the banks. That's where he gets them, because they're not advertising. And all the ones that the 8 or 9 that I've kept track of, all of them are cash flowing like crazy. They're all good businesses. And he's following initially the Berkshire Hathaway method of keeping management in place and not always buying 100%. But he always buys control. But they're selling off, that phone company that sold off that subsidiary. I don't know why in the hell but somebody at the big board decided, we don't need that over there. 99% cash flow business. Holy Toledo. And when the big companies make those decisions at that level, there may not be any rhyme or reason. And whereas we're used to, we want to sell out bad assets. But big companies don't want to sell out necessarily bad assets. They want to sell things that don't fit their strategic plan anymore. And when you're running around with your ear to the ground and your nose to the ground, and you have big letterhead companies representing you, those are the people that find that out first. And the more he performs, the more that conduit will stay full. And his advantage, so to speak, is he has no plans on exiting because he wants to build this huge company legacy. And whether his 2 little boys take it over or not, I don't know about that. They're a little young to be worrying about that. He's not worrying about it, but he's bringing them in every Sunday for their QLA training, which is very smart, extremely smart. And hopefully he'll do better than I do, who was OCD and rammed the shit down their throat, our kids. Questions about Anelli? Yes, sir.
Could you clarify a little bit further about that deal that he got for $50 million? He said that there was $135 million in real estate. The company was valued at $105 million, I think he said. I think he said one other thing about that deal.
Yeah, $200 million. Yeah, the company on paper was valued about $500 million, and they got it for $50. Now, different time, different. When they called me up and say, Dan, can you do me a solid? Can you buy me this company? Nobody's going to be calling you on New Year's Eve other than to bail them out of jail. That's the only calls you're going to get on New Year's Eve. And he's in that group, and he's dinosaur hunting, and the company wanted out. And the companies don't look at this shit like when you got no money, you look at things differently. When you got a little money, you look at things differently. But when you've got a gazillion dollars money, well, they don't care that the rent is this, and they don't care that they're paying it back $25 million in rent. They don't care about that shit. They've got some, highly educated people like Ms. Deloitte here. They're just moving the decimal point around, and they just decided to get rid of it. But if you're not in that arena, if you're not even a part of that universe in any way, shape, manner, or form, you read about it in the newspaper after the fact. And when I was doing this, and I was privileged to be around some shakers and movers, they don't even think about it. And the guys in the big the corporate giants, we're going to reduce our exploration in the Permian Valley 45% over the next 4 years. Make it happen. Fuck, there's 15,000 employees there. There's 75 drilling rigs. There's 2 refineries. There's this. Fuck, there's a lot of shit that's got to get done. We're deciding to, we're not going to service the former Eastern Bloc countries anymore with such and such airline. Well, Jesus, airports are going to close. And then they just give it to, normally there's a divestiture team on all the big companies, and just make it happen. And we cannot own it on January 1, 2 years from now or 3 years from now. But Joe Schwartz and company, your lawyers, who's your 5th cousin by illegitimate marriage, and aren't going to see those deals. Aren't going to see those deals. And that's why it's worth the premium. The premium used to be 30%. Now the premium for the big guys is 50%. Meaning, if they were going to charge you $500 an hour, now to this company, they're charging you $750 an hour now. It used to be just a 30% premium. But now it's 50%. And in some cases, it's 100% premium. But you get what you pay for. And these deals, when they make the decision, the corporate decision to divest, he said 3, 4, 5 times cash flow over debt service. 3, 4, and 5. But when they made that decision at the corporate level, nobody was looking at cash flow. We don't want it anymore. Or a lot of times, this is especially in oil and gas, the refinery blew up and 9 people were killed. We don't want to be there anymore. And I told you a couple times they paid me to take a refinery off their hands, and then I sold it back, and then they paid me again. And those deals are made in the private airports of Munich Airport, where the private jets land, in the room where you have a coffee and a drink. The CEO of this is telling the CEO of there, go tell Hans, and it's, as Sally knew, I saw, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But he's even a more different guy than this. You've seen him twice now. We're not going to see him anymore. And like he told the Nimrod question, it's just like you learned in the first QLA, and they happened to go on the same first QLA. He went to the first QLA in April of 2018. He's got 32 million in EBITDA from April of 2021, and now he's got another 80 or 90 million in EBITDA. And he answered the question slightly differently than I would when he said that, are you focusing on one industry? Of course he's not, but he's doing deal by deal. He only looks at the numbers. He doesn't look at the industry. So when they bring him the deals, when the big 4 accounting firms, the lawyers and or the bank bring him a deal, he's not asking what industry, because he's keeping management. And as he pointed out, as I already alluded to before, these size companies have their own boards. So we'll see how they operate. Now, Berkshire Hathaway doesn't make changes in management. What he does is changes the share positions. He sells the entire company out. Lesser mortals that buy these will change management. And I know that Anelli's going to give him a year. A lot of bad shit can happen in a year, but he's increasing, you heard him say, he's increasing the equity. He's giving more equity to him. Now, the management team that they beat out, and even though the management team bid significantly more, it's got to piss off management, believe me. So he increased their equity. And when you're dealing in tens and hundreds of millions, the fact that you give away 5% more, 10% more really doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. Sounds like a lot, well, shit, that's $20 million or 20 million pounds or whatever. But it's really not when you're building a big portfolio of assets. But as he said, it's got to be strong asset-based, strong cash flow, and that's the QLA model. And I plan on going down there to visit them next year, even though they're wusses. But everybody's a wuss to me, so that's no big strange thing. Any questions about?
He said if he could, he would do every deal the seller's finance.
Correct.
How does he, or how do you pay the board and yourself if all the deals?
Well, then you got to finance. You got to pull money out. Line of credit, working capital. And the first couple, well, he hasn't. I don't think he's owned any of them 2 years yet. But he will do refinancing and pull money out. And if he listens to me, he'll put money in his pocket. In the first webinar, I believe he said not just underfinance, but overfinance. He's overfinancing them all. And when you're buying an asset from a Fortune 100 company, the bank, I won't say they're not concerned at all, but they're almost not concerned that you're going to be able to fucking pay debt service. You buy a 50-year-old subsidiary from Exxon or Bank of America or Deutsche Bank, it's been paying debt service before you were born. It's going to be able to continue to pay debt service. So when you want to overfinance things, it's easier. And remember, there's nothing illegal, immoral, or unethical about overfinancing stuff. I mean, remember, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The average deal, not since Corona happened, I haven't done the numbers, was overfinanced 20% across the board. 20%. And that's where you pay the lawyers, accountants, and yourself. And remember, when it's 100% seller finance, the broker's not going to want to do the deal, but when you tell the broker you're going to pay the fee and mean it, then they'll bring you deals. And these not the bigger deals, they don't really have brokers, business brokers I'm talking about. But the smaller deals that he started with, there were a few business brokers involved. And when a business broker realizes that even though legally and on paper he's supposed to be paid by the seller, when he knows that you as the buyer will pay him, shit, that's another funnel of deals. And I'm not suggesting that the broker would be paid by both ends, but I would suspect they're paid by both ends, on both sides of the transaction, both the buy side and the sell side. But except for larger deals, Andreas, exactly what the QLA model is. This is the QLA model times 5 or 10. And he went to the seminar first in April 2018. 3.5 years. Pretty fucking remarkable. It's better than a brick in the head in a Glasgow pub. Or it's better than hitting somebody with a brick in the head in a Glasgow pub. And I enjoy hearing the stories. And I hear a lot of stories which I can't share with you because they don't, although they want me to pat them on the head like an old grandfather, and they tell me, and I find out all the numbers, they don't want you to live vicariously through the success. But I mean, we've got a number of these guys and gals. And other than the Viking bitch, not too many of the gals want to share their stories. I'm not sure I understand exactly why, but not too many want to share. Maybe they think they're going to be chased by money-grubbing men. Probably so. They might get chased by money grubbing men, but not too many of the gals want to share. Any other questions? Okay, YouTube, thank you.